Good evening, everyone. It's Pastor Anthony here with your Daily Excellence. Thank you guys so much for being on the channel with us and for spending your Tuesday evening here on the Daily Excellence channel. Thank you guys for being here. And so, hey, in just a few moments, probably in about 5 minutes or so, we're going to have Greg from the New York Prepper or NyPrepper Channel will be on with us tonight. So he just messaged me and said he's going to be about 5 minutes and then he will be on with us. So until then, we'll go over a few things that we have coming up and then also kind of go over a couple of subjects that we're going to cover tonight as well. But before we do any of that, I'm going to go over do a little roll call and see who's with us tonight. We got 10,000 Lakes BC and Mud both with us tonight as our moderators. Thank you guys so much for being here. We got Barbara Fest, Clary, good to see you. We got Jay, we got Pamela Cummings, who says that she needs some prayers tonight. So we'll, those prayer warriors out there in the chat room, go ahead and throw up some prayers for her this evening. We've got Bostonian from Boston, I'm assuming, with us tonight. William with us. Let's see, Connie Davidson, Kathleen Saucier with us, Scarlett, Melody DeWhite. Let's see, Skeptic 55 with us, McDonald 1776 with us tonight as well. And so, Yet Williams, Joanna Lynn, Beep 58. Yeah, so a lot of you guys coming in tonight. So, yeah, we got over 100 of you with us. And let me jump on over real quick over to Rumble. We got about 16, 17 of you guys watching us over on Rumble. And, of course, let's check out X. We are live over on X. And we got a couple of viewers watching us over on X tonight as well. So, everybody watching us from all over the place. As I said earlier already, thank you guys so much for coming on. So tonight, the plan is we are going to be covering a plethora of subjects tonight with New York Prepper as soon as he's able to come on. A couple of things that we're going to do. One, I want to talk to him about the document that came out from the Department of Defense. We're going to get into that subject this evening. I've actually had that document for a few weeks. When I got it, I emailed it to, a bunch of people, and just to kind of get their thoughts on this. And so tonight, and NyPrepper was one of the ones that I messaged and emailed that document to. And we've had a few people on YouTube that have brought it up, but nobody really went in depth with it, at least in the circle of people that we follow over here. And so we're going to kind of take a look at that and see what NyPrepper thinks about that. We're also going to talk about some of the moves that North Korea has been making. We talked about this last week, that they're blowing up roads and things like that. And so, it looks like, in my personal opinion, they're getting ready for some kind of combat. So we're going to talk about that as well. Of course, we're going to get into the election season coming up, what we think about that. We'll take a look at a couple of the polls that I ran today on YouTube, discussing that as well. So, a lot of different subjects. Also, we're going to look at the U.S. Capitol perform some evacuation drills. They did that yesterday, and so we'll take a look at that article. Pretty interesting that they would have done that just a couple weeks prior to the elections. Makes you kind of wonder. Not that it's unusual that they would practice an evacuation drill, because we've had, evacuations of the Capitol Hill and federal buildings in the past. All right, so let's not going to get too crazy on it, but it is a little bit interesting that they would plan a drill just a couple weeks or less before the election. So yeah, pretty interesting there. So we're going to cover those subjects, but before we get going here tonight, let's have a word from our sponsor, EMP Shield.
With over 37 models that can be used around the world, our family of EMP protection devices installs easily in minutes. Being employed this year by federal organizations and electrical companies, the EMP Shield has been tested at Keystone compliance a federally approved DoD testing facility. Also serving as one of the world's fastest whole-home surge protection devices, working in less than 1 nanosecond, the EMP Shield will protect against electromagnetic pulses, coronal mass ejections, lightning, and all forms of power surges. Proven to withstand more than 40 EMP strikes with zero degradation, the EMP Shield is also one of the world's strongest surge protectors, capable of withstanding over 100,000 amps.
All right. Yep. EMP Shield, guys. If you haven't done so and you would like to protect your home or your boat, vehicle, generator, whatever it is that you have that needs electricity or want to use to conduct electricity, not a bad idea to get EMP Shield. Protects your home from electromagnetic pulses, whether it comes from the sun, comes from a weapon, from a rogue country, or even lightning. As we get into these weird weather patterns or plasma lightnings becoming an issue, they cause localized EMP issues. And so very easy to install, and you can buy the product and get $50 off that product, which makes it reasonable to afford. And all you have to use is use promo code DAILY and get $50 off. All right. So, and of course, not only do you protect your own home and your stuff, but you're also helping support us here on Daily Excellence with those things. So we're still waiting. For those of you that are coming on, we have NyPrepper that will be on with us here shortly. Just waiting for me to get here, or for him to get here. And yeah. So as soon as he gets on here, we'll get the interview started. Before then, though, a couple of different things coming up. We will at 10 o'clock tonight over on our backup channel, DE Studios. We will have a kind of like a rewind, so to speak, rebroadcast of Mike from COT. We're almost done with 2014 broadcast, and we're going to be starting to upload 2015 on that channel. So anyway, you guys can check that out over there. We will have COT up and going here on this channel Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. New broadcasts lately. We've been broadcasting a lot of, we've been like a week or two behind a broadcast. That's because we had an issue. We were down for like a month again. And so we were really far behind, but we have caught up. And so we are up to date with our broadcasts with that. So that's going on tomorrow night as well. We have Pastor Talk that will be coming up. And normally it's me and my wife that does Pastor Talk on Wednesday nights. But tomorrow night I have a special guest that's going to be with us because my wife is going to be at a conference tomorrow night. So it's going to be my good friend Zach will be with us tomorrow night to do Pastor Talk. And so it'll be a very interesting time tomorrow night. We're going to be discussing our favorite Bible verses and things like that. And just having a good time with you guys tomorrow night. So don't want to miss that. And we use Wednesday nights really to kind of help, we just use Wednesday nights really as kind of a relaxing moment, taking a break from the week, taking a kind of a break from the chaos around us to really minister to you guys that are in the chat room by praying for the needs that you have, getting some laughs, getting those moments in where we can have a devotional with each other and things like that. And so, it's a good time for all of us over there to be able to do that. So let's see. All right. So we have that happening, and lost my train of thought here for a second, guys. Anyway, make sure you guys are with us tomorrow night for Pastor Talk. And also, if you're wanting to, you can support our channel. We always appreciate you guys' support here on Daily Excellence. And of course, we thank you guys for doing that. But you can support us through Patreon and through PayPal if you choose to do so. We are also, I have backup channels over on Rumble and on Patreon, which, by the way, Patreon, for example, we don't charge for Patreon. Just to let you guys know, some people are like, why are you doing this? Why are you charging for your content on Patreon? We don't charge for our content on Patreon. All you do is create a profile and everything is good to go on Patreon. All right. So that's all you have to do. If you choose to leave a donation, you can. You don't have to. But we have everything archived over there. We have over 1,400 videos over on Patreon from us here at Daily Excellence and from COT, several years archived over there. So some people find that format to be a little bit easier to go through and find the COT broadcast in the library there. Of course, you can go over to www.counciltime.com and check the archives out over the SoundCloud videos there to check out Mike from Council of Time. So, all right. So as soon as we get NyPrepper up, for those of you that are just coming on, we're going to go over. I mentioned this a few minutes ago at the beginning of the broadcast. We're going to ask him a couple of questions about what's going on in North Korea and South Korea. And I've told people a while back that, in my personal opinion, North Korea has been left unchecked for a couple of years now, especially with everything going on with the Ukraine and going on with Russia and things like that. They've been kind of overshadowing majority of the news feeds, especially in the area of world events. And then you have, Israel and Iran pop off and things like that. So that's kind of left North Korea unchecked up until this week. When there's footage coming out of North Korea blowing up their roads on the DMZ zone over there. We have rumors of some firing going on over there. So give me just a second, guys, because it looks like NyPrepper is going to join us. So give me just a second here. We'll go live here in just a moment with you. And we'll be right back in just a minute. What's going on? Can you hear me? Okay. I can't hear anything you're saying now for some reason. What about now? Okay, now it's good. Yeah. All right, hold on. Let me get it. All right, guys, there we go. We got NyPrepper on. And just going to do a live mic check with everybody. And so it looks like everybody can see you, though. So we're going to do just a kind of a quick sound check real quick, just to make sure that we can hear Greg loud and clear. So go ahead and just welcome everybody in. How's it going, guys? Good to see you. Looks like you're coming in loud and clear. They're all saying that they can hear you. Perfect. Okay, good. All right, we're good to go. So, all right. So I was just letting everybody know, and we'll just kind of start off with this tonight, since we were kind of already getting into it. But I was talking about North Korea and South Korea, and I was kind of letting everybody know, because of everything that was going on with Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Iran and all that stuff, that North Korea got overshadowed. Nobody's paid attention to North Korea. Actually, I don't even think this administration, in my personal opinion, has even paid attention to North Korea at all up until this week. And we saw North Korea blowing up bridges, on the DMZ zone, blowing up their roads and things like that. And typically, If you start seeing things like that happening, that usually is a sign of that's a wartime sign. So from what you pay attention to, because you do a deep dive into all these things, what is going on with North Korea? Is China involved, or is there are we has China declared war on the United States, giving North Korea the green light to get ready to take Taiwan? How is this all connected?
Yeah, so it looks like North Korea may be planning something. They might be planning to go into South Korea soon. Yeah, you mentioned they destroyed the roads and the railroads too.
Yep.
Um, and Yeah, they put their artillery on high alert. So North Korea's long range artillery, which amounts to about 700 pieces of artillery, that's long range stuff. Like standard artillery is like 155 millimeter, which usually has a range of like 20 to 30 miles. Their artillery is like 200 millimeter or even larger. So this is like, really powerful artillery, and it's all made to reach the capital, Seoul. Seoul, if you look at the map, it's very close to the DMZ, and it's pretty well known that basically North Korea's artillery was designed to be able to hit Seoul from inside of North Korea. So what they would do is just launch all their artillery in mass at Seoul immediately as soon as any war were to break out. Hundreds and hundreds of artillery shells just hitting the city. So yeah, they put their artillery on high alert. There was also um, this island. There's a couple of islands off the coast of North Korea that um, the South and the North have had issues there because with the armistice agreement, North Korea believes that their borders should include those islands, and South Korea believes that those islands are theirs. So there's like 3 or 4 islands that they've had issues over the control of them, but one of those islands, North Korea has artillery built into the island itself. They have like these bunkers onto built into this, like the cliff side, and there was some pictures showing that the bunker entrances were open, indicating that that their artillery is basically ready to fire. So yeah, it's a very serious situation there on the Korean Peninsula, and I agree it's been kind of ignored. The focus has been on Ukraine and stuff, but I've been saying for the last like 2 years that Korea is the wild card. They're like the dark horse that nobody's paying attention to, and then out of nowhere, they come out of the woodwork. So
Yeah, they've definitely been overlooked, and who knows what they've been able to manufacture and build over the last 3 or 4 years. And
right,
nobody's really going to be able to get in there and really discover what they've done. And it may be a possibility that China could use them as an aid for Taiwan to help
right.
take that over. This wouldn't surprise me if maybe even if they have North Korea come in and do their dirty work, so to speak. I know South Korea has been paying attention to what's going on over there. Matter of fact, this article came out today. It says South Korea warns that it can send arms to, or let's see, yeah, South Korea warns that it can send arms to Ukraine after reports of the northern troops in Russia. So this is in
Right.
regards to North Korea sending some of its troops over to help Russia and the Ukraine. Have you heard about this?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Well, South Korea obtained intelligence showing that like 1,500 of North Korea's elite army troops, their special forces, are already in Russia, getting what they call acclimatized, and then they're expecting to send another 10,000, which is pretty sizable. The question is, where are they going to go? Are they going to go to Kursk? the area in Russia where Ukraine has, invaded, or are they going to go to like eastern Ukraine or somewhere else? Yeah, that's a very serious escalation. North Korea sending all those troops. One thing to remember is that I think it was last year, there were some agreements that were signed between North Korea and Russia. First, it was the defense minister that went to North Korea. I believe it was last year, and he signed an agreement. The Russian defense minister went to North Korea. They signed some kind of an agreement then, and then like 6 months or so later, Putin showed up in North Korea, and they also signed some kind of an agreement. So it's very likely that Russia is giving North Korea some weapons, or maybe helping them develop them. There's different theories. Some people believe that North Korea doesn't really have any bombers, like long range bombers. So it's possible that North Korea may try to purchase some of the Russian bombers, or maybe develop some long range cruise missiles, air launched cruise missiles, which they don't have. I'm sure they're getting help with their nuclear program. So it's definitely part of their agreement, sending the troops in exchange for, help with weapons. And then also the deputy foreign minister of Russia said like a week ago that if North Korea was attacked by South Korea or the U.S., that Russia would help them. So they have some kind of an agreement. But also, what's interesting is early last year, early 2023, it was like January, the South Koreans requested a nuclear sharing with the United States to share nuclear weapons, kind of like how NATO shares nuclear weapons, and we didn't really hear too much about it, other than Biden said that he would be okay with it. So since then, there hasn't really been much news about it. My guess is that it went through, that the Biden administration approved that, which would basically mean that South Korea is basically trained to deliver American nuclear weapons, potentially has possession of them, and is authorized to use them in an escalation. So, and they've done drills together multiple times this year, so it's a very, very tense situation.
Just realized my mic was off. Okay, let me try that again. The joys of going live. All right, let me rephrase that again, guys. Sorry, my mic was muted. So, all right. Anyway, give a little history lesson real quick, guys. For those of you that remember the Korean War, that was well before my time. But the Korean War technically hasn't come to an end, okay? Both North Korea and South Korea are in a war still. They've just been in their treaty this entire time. So if North Korea was to come down and attack South Korea, there's a mandate that the United States would get involved with South Korea and help defend them should anything happen. Same thing that we have with Taiwan and a lot of these other places out there in that part of the Pacific Ocean. And so it is very important to remember that. And so when you say that should we step in, that Russia would come in to aid in China and North Korea, just that part alone would be like a World War III type front situation just on the
Yeah.
Korea Peninsula itself. But that's not the only area that we're having problems with. We've got NATO having some issues, and I got a question for you because I heard a rumor, but I haven't been able to verify this out of NATO. But I've heard a rumor that NATO has started to move nuclear weapons into Ukraine. Now, Ukraine gave up all their nuclear arms a long time ago, and they currently don't have any. They don't manufacture any there, according to Zelensky, anyway. But rumor is that NATO has moved nuclear weapons into Ukraine. Do you know anything about this? I've heard of it, but I can't verify. I can't find anything online to verify this.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything to verify that either. Anything is possible, of course. I don't know if you heard about, was it a week or two ago? Zelensky said that when he spoke to Trump recently, when they met, I think it was in Trump Tower, he had a meeting with Trump again, and he told Trump, listen, it's either NATO or nukes, basically saying, if we're not allowed to join NATO, then we're going to start developing our own nuclear weapons. Basically what he said. And then like a day later, he backtracked on it because NATO was like, I guess probably when he said that, maybe they were a little pissed off that he said that. So he kind of backtracked on it and said, oh, we don't have any intention to develop nukes or whatever. But it's very possible because the weapons that NATO has, they're American nukes. They're B-61 nuclear gravity bombs. So they're just, bombs that can be launched from F-16s, which Ukraine has now. So theoretically, they could have them, and they could probably use them. Whether they've been trained on them is a question too. It's possible they were. It would make sense that if they're going to train them, they might as well train them to use those nukes too. If there's some kind of escalation between NATO and Russia, let's say, for example, Putin nukes Ukraine. It's possible that they would want Ukraine to have the capability to nuke Russia on their own back rather than NATO having to get involved, because then NATO could say, well, it wasn't us, it was, Ukraine or whatever. But, Ukraine is basically like a forward deployed force for NATO, essentially, because they're right next to Russia.
Mm-hmm.
So if things were to escalate, they could use Ukraine as an assault force,
Yeah. And I think, to add to your point, if anything takes place with anything in Europe, I hate to say, but I think Ukraine's going to be the battlefield.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna go in, and that's where that's just where everything's going to be fought, is going to be in Ukraine. And unfortunately, I don't think it matters, in my personal opinion, what side Ukraine decides to be on. That would just be total destruction for those guys, and ultimately would affect the entire world as well, because Ukraine produces a lot of fertilizers and things like that for farms and stuff, which is part of the reason in which nobody's talking about this. They did at the very beginning, if you remember, that without the shipments of fertilizer coming out of Ukraine, that we would see hyperinflation on food prices. We blamed it on a lot of other things, but really it's because of what's going on with Ukraine and Russia and the propaganda that, in my personal opinion, that we have done here in the U.S. with all of that. So, there's that aspect of it. And so they're still going to be doing that. I do remember Trump saying that, if he got elected in, that he would have that whole conflict resolved before he even took office in January. He said that in like the first debate with Joe Biden. He had brought that out. And then even afterwards, there were meetings with Zelensky, as you had already pointed out, and I believe there was already a meeting with Putin since then. And so, kind of interesting to see what happens with that, if it's even allowed to happen, which will probably get into that subject here in just a second. So a lot of different movements going on around the world. One last stop on our world trip tonight is, of course, we've got the Israeli and Iranian conflict that's taken place. We're still waiting for a response from Israel over to Iran. Supposedly, the reason why they haven't done it is because there was a leak of, I guess coming from our side, from the Pentagon, wherever. But there was a leaking out what Israel was going to do, where they were going to strike, so on and so forth. And so supposedly that's why we haven't seen anything just yet over there. I kind of like to think that they believe in the ultimate. They believe in the ultimate surprise, so to speak. The Israelis do, and not just let people know, hey, it's coming. But with your observation of that particular conflict and what's going on there, what do you think that is could potentially, hypothetically, come down the road with those guys?
Yeah, we're hearing now that Israel's probably going to strike the nuclear sites, and looks like they're also going to go after government targets. Some news came out yesterday and the day before, credible sources in Israel saying that they're going to go after government targets and nuclear sites. So, there's a very good chance that this is going to be a full-scale decapitation strike, and at least a denuclearization strike as well. The more that time goes on and we don't see a strike happen, the more likely it is that Israel is just planning for something big. So they need more time to prepare, because, striking hundreds of targets all at once, doing it, in an area where the airspace is not, Iran has air defenses. They have S-400s that Russia gave to them, which are no joke. S-400s are, very good systems. So, Ukraine has to, or not Ukraine, Israel and the U.S. and Great Britain, possibly France, they have to figure out, how can they penetrate that airspace, and what are the targets, and they need good intelligence too. Like if they're going after, let's say, government officials, right? They need really good intelligence to the point where they have to be able to figure out where somebody is at a particular time, and as soon as they find out, let's say, okay, we know that let's say Ayatollah Khomeini is going to be in this bunker for the next 3 days, and they know 100% for sure, then they're going to strike it, right? So a lot of times it's just waiting for the right opportunity. If they're going to be going after officials, government officials, they need, good intelligence, and they need to make sure that there's a good opportunity. Then they have to figure out how to clear the airspace of air defenses. And then, of course, there's a lot of, planning with the U.S. in case of escalation, because Iran is expected to retaliate. So they might go after not just Israel, but they could go after American oil facilities, various oil facilities in the Middle East, Saudi facilities, for example. They could target those. So there's a lot of preparation that needs to be done before they do this. We're already seeing the THAAD systems coming in, the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense. One of those already got set up in Israel. They're expecting up to 2 more. So I think it's just more of, just they're taking their time to plan it out, because it's a big deal. This is going to be something like shock and awe in Iraq. That massive bombardment the first 2-3 days when we invaded Iraq. So they have to really take their time. So I'm not surprised by it. Some people are surprised. They're wondering, oh, why didn't they strike yet? I mean, the longer it takes them, the more likely it is that they're planning something huge. Because if they were just going to do a small strike, they would have done it already.
Right.
they already know where the targets are. A lot of them, they know where the fixed targets are, the ground, the bases and bunkers. They know where they are. So the fact that it's taking a long time, number one, means they're planning a big strike. Number two, they're waiting for good intelligence and good timing to hit potentially maybe the Ayatollah Khomeini and take him out. They're just trying to figure out where he is and stuff like that potentially. So, it could escalate. Iran has a lot of their own ballistic missiles. They have, just hundreds of bunkers throughout all of Iran. Iran is just a mountainous country. All of their mountains are like 5,000-6,000 feet tall. It's like the Rocky Mountains. There's so many areas where they can just hide stuff, and it's going to be impossible for the U.S. and Israel to destroy all of that. So they have to just pick the most important ones. But as soon as America and Israel hit the targets, then Iran is going to launch whatever they can, whatever's left over, which could be a significant amount. So it could be a big situation. It may not be like the last time where they flew in and they hit a couple of air defense sites at the Isfahan complex, which is where one of their nuclear sites is. It was like a demonstration strike, and that was it. This could be like a multi-day back and forth situation where Iran launches again at them, and then then Israel and America have to go out and do more sorties, and it could just be like several days. It could even be like a small war for that could go on for a month or so potentially. So
yeah, you could have too, especially if they really do go after their nuclear sites and military sites and government and things like that. You could get the involvement of Russia with them because Russia has sites in Iran as well, and so we could see Russia getting involved in that. And that could be and this may be a bit of a stretch, but you could be looking at a potential Ezekiel 38-39 passage there where Russia would come down out of retaliation against the United States and against Israel. They would go after our forces in the Middle East and go after Israel and things like that. And you may see the potential launch of a couple of nukes, one or two here or there. And that's just, hypothetically speaking, different avenue that this thing could go. Or it could be a long drawn out thing where, as you had stated, we could be seeing, skirmishes back and forth for quite a while until, they feel like it's, done with, I guess, so to speak. But I'm bringing all this out for a reason tonight, and I'm going to go in one more direction. And before we kind of really get into the bowels of this, so to speak, I'm going to bring it back home here. As I was telling everybody at the beginning, we're a couple weeks out from our election season right now, and I found it very odd that the U.S. Capitol complex would plan an evacuation or would have an evacuation drill for the U.S. Capitol. And actually, they included all the facilities in the area. There were a lot of streets, Congress Avenue, places like that were all blocked off. This actually happened yesterday, and I'll pull up the article here. But the U.S. Capitol complex evacuation drill was planned for Monday. Like I said, it was yesterday. Fox 5 out of Washington, D.C. has a thing on this. And it's not unusual that they would have evacuations. We've seen them before where there's been threats and everybody's had to leave. We saw this on 9/11 where everybody was leaving. So it's not unusual. However, the timing of it is what I have an issue with. The timing taking place 2 weeks before the election, the timing coming out after the DOD releases a document, which is where I'm going with all of this, and the things that they're planning and have stated. And it's really strange, in my opinion, that they would plan for this evacuation of the White House, or not the White House, but of Capitol Hill and all the federal buildings that surround it and that surround the memorials and all that stuff over there. And so I didn't know if you had heard anything about this, or what you thought in your personal opinion would be. Basically, are you kind of getting the same feeling I have about this being so close to the elections coming up?
Yeah, it's very strange. It's definitely not surprising, especially that DoD directive basically authorizing lethal force on U.S. citizens if there's any chaos during the election. That's pretty concerning. I mean, that means the military can go in and just start opening fire on people, and who's gonna be there to determine why did they have to use lethal force? Was
Right.
it really needed? Who's going to oversee that? The employment of the lethal force. So yeah, it's very, very serious, and it's definitely not a coincidence. Definitely
No.
not.
And then the day before that, okay, so that was yesterday, October 21st. Then on October 20th, you had Lindsey Graham, who was on Meet the Press with NBC. And I'm going to try to pull this up real quick. Hopefully I don't get in trouble. But I added this onto my Twitter account. So he's over here. And I don't know if you can hear him or not. It may not. Hold on, let me see.
Senator, the enemy from within, is that a winning closing message for the former president?
Well, we do have enemies within. We've got an Afghan national who's going to attack us on election day. But as to the...
So I don't know if you guys could hear that because they were kind of blocking it out a little bit. But anyway, Senator Lindsey Graham basically is stating that... And I don't think he was supposed to do this. I think he accidentally, or maybe it was on purpose. I don't know. I think that was classified information that he brought out. But he basically states that, the question was asked, do you believe that there are, internal enemies or whatever in the U.S.? And he said, other than the fact that there are Afghani nationals that are gonna attack on election day. Okay. He didn't say maybe or will. He said they're gonna attack. That was his exact wording on there. So if you didn't hear it loud enough, you can go over to our Twitter account at DailyExcellence. I put it up there before we went live, and that's what he said. Okay, he said that's what he said over there, and so and he says that there are enemies within our country, and Afghani nationalist was just arrested on U.S. soil for plotting an election day attack, and so that was some of the news that was coming out. So I thought it was pretty interesting that he would go on Meet the Press on NBC on the 20th. On the 21st, the Capitol Hill has these evacuation drills that are taking place. So it's almost as if they know, in my personal opinion, okay, because I'm not an expert in any of this stuff, got to comply with the community guidelines. But it's almost like they know something's going to happen, okay? And it may not be something that we all think is going to take place.
Right.
We're all expecting like civil unrest to take place, but I think they got, and I can't say the word. Here we go. This taking place. You know what letter that makes? Starts with a T.
Right.
So I thought it was pretty interesting.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah. So, is it possible that some polling stations, in my personal opinion, may not exist on November 5th?
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's weird. Hopefully.
Yeah, there could be attacks.
Happened.
Yeah, there could be like attacks on the polling stations or something.
Yeah. So it was pretty weird to say that. Then. We have these things that are taking place. And then, of course, the main part of this that I want to get into, and it's going to take me just a second here to try to pull this form up over here because I want to share it with everyone if I can, if it'll let me do it. Let's see. Okay, hold on. Technical difficulties here. So basically on this form, and it starts on the DoD forms, and some of you guys have heard of this. It's the DoD 5240.01. It was released on September 27th, 2024. And the main part of it is really found on page 13. And I'm going to pull this up, move us over here. And give me just a second so I can... Well, hold on. I lost my spot. Anyway, here we go. So on page 13, and it's basically, I'm going to start off on the bottom here where it says Secretary of Defense approval. And I'll try to highlight so you guys at home can see this. I can't really blow it up any more than what it is. But it says here, the Secretary of Defense may approve any type of request permissible assistance as described in paragraph 3.2. The decision to approve requests for these types of permissible assistance described in paragraph such and such to law enforcement agencies and other civil authorities are reserved to the Secretary of Defense. Provision of personnel to support response efforts for civilian disturbances, which also require presidential authorization. DoD, Department of what is this? Department of Defense. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, Department of Defense to chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and high-yield explosive incidences. All right, so they're talking about civil disturbances, anything that could potentially cause that, anything that may be in chemical or biological relation, radiological, nuclear, or anything high-yield incidences. All right, and these particular incidences that could take place, assistance in responding with assets with potential for lethality or situation in which it is responsibly foreseeable that providing the requested assistance may involve the use of force that is likely to result in lethal force, including death or seriously bodily injury. It also includes the support of civilian law enforcement, which is kind of interesting, civilian law enforcement officials in situations where a confrontation between civilian law enforcement and civilian individuals or groups is reasonably anticipated. Such use of force may be in accordance with the DoD D 5210.56, potentially as further restricted based on specifics of the requested support. Okay. And so, of course, it says here, this is a reprovision of this. That's a reprovision of what was set in place in October 31st of last year. And so anyway, that came out on September 27th, just ahead of what we've got coming up. And so when you look at this, and this is why I kind of brought up all these different issues tonight. And because all those issues that we have going on with what's going on in North Korea and China and Russia and Ukraine and Israel and Iran and our elections and potential Afghani people running around. There's a lot that it's taking place right now. There's a lot going on, and they know it and they're prepared for it. And it's kind of scary because the way this is written out, in my opinion, this gives support for our own law enforcement, our own officials in our counties and small towns, rural areas, big cities, to turn against us if any one of these things was to take place. So it's not just if, hypothetically, the elections don't go the way people want them to go and they decide to go out and do something. This is if we have a nuclear event, okay? Or if we have, a biological event. Or, dare I say, if we have this event, right? So we can't use that word on YouTube. So, if we have that event, any event, basically they've listed almost every situation possible, then this could potentially go into effect. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's very concerning. Yeah, it's something is definitely brewing. Could be the T word. It could be, nuclear, biological. It's possible that, there could be some kind of, FF, if you know what I mean, false F,
Mm-hmm.
false FLAG. Maybe that's what Lindsey Graham was talking about with the Afghanistan thing. Maybe that's going to be a big false FLAG. And then that brings, the military down to polling places around the country because an IED went off somewhere in a polling place. So now the military is going to supervise everything. I mean, it's just, it sounds like there could be a false, FLAG is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's definitely concerning. And so, when we go forward in this, and I bring this out not to scare people, because that's not what I want to do. I don't want to fear monger. And there is a possibility. I mean, we've been in these kind of situations before where we were facing uncertainty and then nothing happens. Okay. And it's possible that could take place, but I want people to be prepared as we go forward into this. And so with the potential of this scenario or scenarios playing out, because we really don't know which one it is, but when you have that many scenarios in play, you can pretty well speculate out of your own reasoning and out of your own deduction that, okay, something's about to break out. Okay, we just don't know what area, but there's too much for something not to happen. And so we don't want to fear monger or anything like that, but we want to be prepared. We want to be smart. We want to be wise. And so, being who you are, you're being a prepper yourself. What would be some advice that you would give to the people out there as we face these next couple of weeks? Because it's very possible that in the next 14 days, we're on the countdown. That's why I named tonight's broadcast what I did, on the brink of chaos. Okay, because that's where we're at. In 14 days, it's very possible that we could be in a different country. Okay, our scenario, our lives, everything that we do could be flipped upside down. How do we prepare for this? I know what to do spiritually, but I wanted to find out from you on a physical level. How do we prepare for this? How does somebody who either lives in a big city, or somebody maybe don't live in a big city, but they live just outside the suburbs, their regular neighborhood.
Sure.
How do people prepare for this? What do they do?
Yeah, if you're in a big city, or if you're in the suburbs, you definitely have to really prepare for the election period. For civil unrest, any other kind of situation we discussed. Simple thing would be to keep some fire extinguishers on hand. We saw a couple of years back, in the Minneapolis riots, a lot of fire bombs were used by rioters. It's very easy for people to improvise, fire bombs. So, make sure you have a way to put out fires. Like a wool blanket is good for that too. If somebody does firebomb your house, keep like 1 or 2 wool blankets. They're not expensive. You can buy them on Amazon for like $50. You can get the fire retardant wool blankets. They're treated with a fire retardant chemical. Keep one of those. You can use that to put out the fires, and then also for warmth. And then have some fire extinguishers. And in addition to that, it would be smart to kind of do like an area survey of where you live. Be kind of aware of any possible threats around you. Maybe try to figure out what kind of people your neighbors are. If you don't really talk to them much, try to see if your neighbors are going to, go crazy and try to do something, if they're politically motivated or something like that or whatever. But do an area survey, kind of look for possible threats near your house where you live, whether it's people or other things. Obviously you want to know where water sources are around you, how can you collect water, because water's one of the things that you're going to need the most of. Food you can go a little bit longer without, but water can't really go more than a day without water before things start shutting down. So you need to have, obviously, water stored. I always tell people to have at least 2 weeks of water. That's like a reasonable amount of water that doesn't take up a lot of space. 2 weeks of water is enough. The reason I say 2 weeks is you have to plan for worst case scenarios like nuclear war. If, let's say, you had to shelter in place in your home or somewhere else, if there is a nuclear attack, 2 weeks is usually the time frame for how long you're going to have to stay inside. So you're going to want to have 2 weeks of water so you can get through that. Other than that, obviously having spare food is smart. At least a month of food, whether it's canned or freeze-dried food, whatever you like. And then, bug out bag, in my opinion, everybody should have one. Everybody's bug out bag is going to be different, depending on where you live, the climate. Are you in the country? Are you in the city? Where are you going to bug out to? That's another thing. Yeah. But have a bug out bag, and when you're putting together your bug out bag, it's important to make sure that number one, the backpack that you're putting all your stuff in has to fit you well, has to be comfortable. If it's not comfortable, if it doesn't fit, then you have to find another bag, because if you're going to have to actually use your bug out bag and hike 20, 30 miles or more to escape danger, you're going to learn after the first, second, or third mile that your bag doesn't fit well, and you're getting, all kinds of problems from that. So you have to have a bag that fits you, and don't overpack your bug out bag. You don't need too much stuff. Bug out bags should not be more than 20 pounds. 20 pounds is like, ideal for a bug out bag. You don't need like 30, 40, 50 pounds of stuff. And then those would be the big ones. And, with the overseas things that are going on, it would be smart to think about, fallout shelter. You should be aware of where you could go to shelter in case of a nuclear war. That's something that sounds crazy, but it doesn't really take a lot of effort, really. And if something were to happen, you would know exactly where to go, and you wouldn't be panicking. So like if your house has a basement, that's fine. You can use your basement. If your house does not have a basement, then you need to think about other structures that you can shelter in your area that you can get to in a reasonable amount of time. And so, yeah, those would be the big things I would recommend.
Yeah, you can get, maybe you're like, well, I don't have a backpack, or I don't have stuff to go in. You can actually get, if you're in a pinch, you can get bug out bags that already come with the things that you need to at least get yourself out.
Right.
Amazon has them. Walmart carries them. And they're not that bad. I think they're at the low end. Some of them are like $50 for a couple of days. You can get some that are all up to like $200, depending on how extravagant you want to get. But you can get one at a decent price if you need to do that. So I know we've aired them on here once or twice here on the channel, and so but definitely you should do that if you're planning on hunkering down in your home. As Greg said, definitely have a couple weeks worth of water. I would even venture to say maybe even have 4 weeks of water, 4 weeks of food, things like that. Because whatever takes place, you have to understand it's not in the long term. This is all going to be part of a reset that's coming. Okay, so there's going to be a new system and a new adoption that's going to take place of life. And so whatever situation we're in is not going to be a long-term event. It's going to be different. And for those of us that are conservative Christians, it's probably not going to be good for us, so to speak, when the dust is settled. So you have to keep that in mind. Self-defense is huge. You're definitely going to want to have some kind of self-defense on you, without going too far into that. Have some sockets and some tools and things like that to protect yourself with, and things of that nature. But I always tell people, you can prepare the best you can, physically, but the best way to prepare yourself is spiritually, because when you're prepared spiritually, you can hear the voice of God, and he'll tell you exactly what you need to do, where you need to go, because what you may need to do for someone who lives in Florida may not be the same for somebody who lives in Minnesota, right? It's different. And so, you definitely want to use that wisdom from the Lord. And so that's what I tell everyone is make sure that you're spiritually sound, make sure your heart's in the right place, that your spirit's in the right place. If you're not in right standing with God, get yourself in right standing with God. He's waiting for you. He's not waiting to smite you or punish you or take you out, but he's waiting for you to come to him and get right with him, and then be a friend to you and lead you out, just like he led the children of Israel out, just like he led Joseph out, just like he led Jesus out to Egypt, because they were trying to hunt him down as a 2-year-old. God has always taken care of his people and have always moved his people out of the way before something has happened. And so if you live in the area, that something bad is about to happen, make sure that you pray and find out what you need to do, and the Lord will move you. And he's been doing that across the United States. People have been leaving areas, and they've had dreams about those areas, and the Lord's told them, get out, leave. And that's been happening across the United States. And I've heard several stories about this. And so, and it's definitely in the areas that you would think it would be in. So that's been happening, and you definitely want to do that. And yeah, so it's going to be interesting the next few weeks for sure. We don't want bad things to happen. We pray that we can go through this peacefully over the next couple weeks, and that I feel like step 1 is getting past election night, and then step 2 is going to be getting past the next 60 days after that, leading to I think January 20th or something like that, when they do the installment. Because in some ways, and I was telling you earlier in the week, I think in some ways, if anything's going to happen, it may be during that 60-day period when people realize, oh man, I've only got whatever we're going to do. We got to do this before the next administration comes in, because we're not going to get away with this stuff, Right. And so, if nothing happens on election night, you got 60-day period there that the world's going to be on pins and needles, so to speak. And so we got a little trek ahead of us, for sure. So yeah. But anyway, that's pretty much all I have for it tonight, man. And thank you so much, Greg, for coming on and being a part of our broadcast. Guys, this is Greg with NyPrepper. He has a YouTube channel, which I think most of you guys probably already know. But if you don't know, we have a link in the description box below that will have his links to his channel, and a link over to your Patreon, I believe, and I think we have your Telegram as well. Yeah. So
thank you.
We have those in there, and also he's on the featured spot on the main page. So if you don't want to dig through the descriptions, you can just click his photo on the featured channels, and it's
thank you.
There. So all those things are there for you. So anyway, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. God bless you, and we will see you guys tomorrow night at 6:00 Eastern Standard Time for Pastor Talk with myself, and our special guest Zach will be with us. You don't want to miss that. Make sure you guys help us out, guys, by liking, sharing, subscribing to the channel. Help us fight those algorithms, because they've been keeping us on ice for months now. So make sure you guys can do that for me. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. God bless you. We'll see you guys all tomorrow night, 6:00 Eastern Standard Time for Pastor Talk. Bye, everyone.
See ya.